For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you really run out of time? And we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school? Did you?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. What are you celebrating today? If this is your first time here, welcome to our show. My show is all about celebrating life, celebrating art, celebrating artists, celebrating whatever we can find to celebrate in these crazy times. Today is, this entire month is National Adopt a Bird Month. So if you can adopt a bird, whatever that means for you, go out and adopt a bird. Today also marks the birthday of my dad. I'm going to share one of my favorite photographs of my dad. Some of you have seen this photograph before. This is a favorite Christmas memory of me getting my Lionel train and my dad and I playing. I think my dad had more fun with it than I did, but I love this photograph. It's also National Houseplant Day. I don't know if you can see in the background. This is an orange tree that is actually from the garden of Carol Channing. She thought it was an avocado tree because when it was given to Tommy Tune to give to me, to drop a couple of names, all of the fruit on it was green. So she thought it was an avocado tree. But today, we are also going to be celebrating the world of puppetry. I have my own Carol Channing puppet. This is not a marionette. This is a ventriloquist doll. This is my very own Carol Channing doll. But I discovered the world of Robert Brock, and I fell in love with his energy, his spirit, everything about him. And there's a new documentary that's just about to hit everywhere called Marionette Land. And I got the good fortune because they shared this film with me before sitting down to do the show today. And I'm just going to give you a little taste of this film. And then on the other side, you are all going to meet Robert and you're all going to fall in love with him just the way I did. Here is Marionette Land.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the curtain is about to go up.
There's a new theater tonight in Lancaster. Wanda Woodbury says the acting is a little wooden, but there's good reason for that.
Robert Brock has always dreamed of owning a theater, and now he has one, making this Lancaster's first permanent puppet theater.
I've always wanted a theater, and I always knew I would live above it. Ticket sales are terrible, and they said that I wasn't American Pie enough. Plus, I think it was a little too gay. September and October is for grown-ups only. I can get a little raunchy. I just can't keep this pace up. I've never had a long-term relationship.
His audience is that partner.
It's the relationship that I've had the most success with.
Thank you. You're a wonderful audience.
But luckily, I had the theater to escape.
Thank you.
When you're working as an actor, you have to audition, and it's constant rejection. I was having some depression issues, and my career wasn't going where I wanted it. It was the rejection I just had a hard time with. With the puppets in the puppet theater, I can play all the roles. I don't have to audition. I can have complete control.
Oh, Toto, we're home.
Children now, they're asked to grow up too soon.
For 35 minutes, you can escape and go into a totally different world.
We'll sing them all, and we'll stay all night.
He's just brilliant. He's funny all the time.
In a way, the puppets are his family. He made them, he created them.
My priority is the theater in my life.
The theater exposes them to make-believe, wonder,
There isn't too many other places like this.
Come on, everyone. Second star to the right. Straight on to morning.
Are you ready now for me to say the magic words? On with the show.
And on with the show. And here he is. First of all, I cannot believe that you said yes to doing this show.
Oh my God, are you kidding?
Because when I first saw it, when I first started reading about this, I reached out immediately. And when you said yes, and we became Facebook friends, and here we are. First of all, welcome to the show. And I want to ask you, in addition to this film that's about to open, we've just come through the holiday season and everything. What are you celebrating today?
Oh, well, that's an easy question to answer. I'm celebrating on Richard Skipper Celebrates. I can't believe I'm talking to someone who knew Carol Channing, Dodie Goodman, and was friends with them. I can't believe you have a lemon tree that Carol thought was an avocado tree.
An orange tree.
An orange
tree. A lemon tree.
Yeah. And when you were doing the interview with Patty DeBeck and you talked about Leland Palmer, I love Leland Palmer. Yeah. And so I'm thrilled to be on this. And I also have to add, watching you and catching up on episodes, it's been so inspiring. Well, it's difficult. You know, my mom and I are pretty much in self-isolation, and I really miss having no one to talk theater with. So I feel that fulfilled that.
Well, thank you. Now, I'm going to tell you, someone gave me this incredible gift. I love this. Someone gave me this for the holidays, for Christmas, and it's called Icebreaker. And I am pulling a question out of here. I don't even know what I'm pulling.
I know. I saw this on another episode.
And so I'm just pulling a random question. Here it is. And do you see what the question is?
Are you kidding? I don't have the right glasses on.
What is a mistake that people often make about you? That's the icebreaker question for today.
Oh, well, I think this might sound a bit of a snobbish, but I think people think that what I present on stage is me. And of course, as we all know, that's your persona. So I think everyone thinks I'm gregarious and like to party and like to be around crowds. And the truth is, I don't. If I'm on stage, that's fine. You know, that's the protection.
Well, you know, it's funny because, you know, that's often so true of almost every person that I know in this business, including myself.
Yeah.
You know, the onstage persona often is very, very different from the offstage persona. Now, I asked you for a photograph of you at 5 years old. And I asked for this for a very reason. Those of you who have seen previous shows know about this, because the 5-year-old self to me is the purest self in most cases.
I think that's true. I think that's true. I never thought about it like that.
It's the time before school starts, before we go into school and teachers, other students start shaping us into who they think we should be or should not be. And teachers start telling us who we should be and who we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I love this photograph. If my sister is watching, I hope that she sends me the photograph because I have a photograph that looks exactly like this, same pose and everything. Tell us a little bit about this kid.
Oh, my. Well, I can remember that photograph being taken for some reason at Wickersham Elementary, and I can remember the book, and I was 5, so it would have been the year after I'd major surgery on my back. So actually, that was a good time, a happy time. And, remember being invited to my grandparents who had a colored television, and we watched Mary Martin and NBC in living color. And that was an incredible special time. And Yeah, that's what makes me. Miss Cheddar was my first grade teacher. I adored her. I think are you in kindergarten or first grade when your
No,
father?
that's, I didn't go to kindergarten. I
Oh,
grew up in South Carolina, and I went right into first grade. And
okay.
my first grade teacher, Miss Meredith, had such an impact on me. As a matter of fact, we moved in my family moved away when I was in the first grade, and my birthday is coming up in February, and my parents allowed us to stay so that they were going to throw a Valentine's party, and they allowed me to stay with my grandparents through that birthday party. And so I finished through that period. And when I moved to go to the new school,
Yes.
Miss Batten, no matter what she did, she was not Miss Meredith, and she could not live up to her. And there was just no getting over that. But I also escaped into the world of color television through my grandparents.
Oh, well, yes, then you know. And let me tell you something, Richard, that photograph of you and your dad, that television in the background, I have another photograph that's very similar to that with that kind of television. And like when there was spring cleaning or if the television needed to go to the repair shop to have a tube replaced,
Yes.
they would lift it off and I would get inside the base of the television and put on my little puppet show.
Oh, of course. Well, and I want to ask you, when did you first realize that you wanted to go into the world of show business? And what was it about that world that first attracted you?
Well, when I was 2, my father built my sister, who's 4 years older than I, a puppet theater, and it had all the Sleeping Beauty puppets.
Mhm.
And you see me oogling it. And my sister has she's accused me of many things over the years, but she accused me of stealing her puppet theater, and I did. There was a local show on our NBC affiliate called Percy Platypus and Friends, which starred Mary Jane Landis, and it was sort of a takeoff of Kukla, Fran, and Ollie, and I loved that. I can remember being in the 3rd grade, and we'd have my elementary school had a stage, which of course I adored, and we were doing an assembly, and I was talking about Native Americans. We said Indians then, but Native Americans. And I was holding an arrow and I pointed to the bow and the quiver and the point. And Mrs. Haar said, now, did you see how Robbie Brock pointed to this? That's how you should do it. So that was a real sort of affirmation, but I always wanted to be on the stage. Oh, and then the summer, I was in 5th grade and we had a used to be a Star stock company, but it was past the Star part, but it was in the round, 100% in the round. And they did this production of West Side Story. And I just was taken away. I came home and in the kitchen on Orange Street, I was doing the jet dances and I was using the kitchen counter as my ballet bar. And I just that was it. That was the first legitimate theater. And my mother made it clear what legitimate is as opposed to like community theater. And we had 2 regional theaters. So I got to see a lot of theater.
Now,
that's where I wanted to be.
Was there any particular moment when you went to your parents and said, I want to be a part of that world?
Well, yes, from the very beginning. And I'm sure you got this. Well, you can do that as a hobby, but you need something to fall back on. And
my mom still tells me that.
I think my mother's just finally accepted it. And I did have other things to fall back on, but I hated it. I just hated it. I would just wait for the next job. And I was lucky, Richard, in Lancaster, there was a lot of theater, a lot of community theater. We had the beautiful Fulton Theater here in Lancaster, which is the oldest theater in continual operation in the United States. And I like to say I was raised there. John Durang, who was America's firstborn actor, dancer, and puppeteer, was born in Lancaster in 1763. And there was a plaque behind the Fulton. And I would read that and thought, well, if he came from Lancaster and he was an actor, I could be too. And Christopher Durang is a direct descendant of John's.
That's right. Now, when did you, I mean, as you could have gone in two different directions as an actor or the world of puppetry. So what was it about the world of puppetry that kept pulling you in that direction?
Well, let me backtrack a little bit and I'll tell you. I would do whatever to work in the theater. I did props for many seasons. I did hair, I did makeup, I did sets, I did costumes. I would do whatever to work in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had an interest in puppets, and particularly in this country, puppets have sort of a bad rep. And I think it's because of early television. In the States, a lot of the children's things were with puppets, so people think it's with children. And I kept thinking it's more than that. And then I say this in the picture. I was tired of all the auditions. Awful. I hate auditioning. Once I'm there, I'm okay. But I was always never cast. I always was cast in character work, which is fun, but I never got to dance on stage because I never played those roles. And I'm getting so sidetracked. What was your question?
No, but why you chose the world of puppetry over there? But I want to go back.
Because I didn't. I wanted to play them all, and I wanted to have complete control. What was your friend talking about last night? Always having to be right syndrome.
Yes.
Yes.
Because Sarah McKee,
yes,
who I think may be watching. But
I love you. I've replaced but with yet.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. But I want to ask you. Let's go back to the audition situation. What happened when you went to an audition? Did you freeze? Did you get uncomfortable?
No. I would do it. I would have terrible anxiety, performance anxiety, but I could perform. But in those days, if you were like too gay, they wanted the straight looking guys. And so that was, and I can play straight. I just would play my father when I'd have to play straight, which was easy. But it was the rejection and other people getting it and jealousy. And I just didn't quite fit.
Forgive me for going here.
Go.
Since you bring this up.
Your show.
Yes, no, but when you say the two gay situation, was this something that you were feeling inside your head, or was this something that you were being told?
Both. My first theater teacher, and was a lifelong friend of mine, Mrs. Hoffman, would always try to get me to not roll my eyes and try to have me play straight. Well, that just wasn't gonna work. But we did remain friends for many years. She ended up in Savannah, and I went down to visit her a couple of times, and we went out on the town, and she would introduce me, and she would say, "This is Robbie Brock. He was one of my former students, and on the same bill, he played Henry VIII and Frosty the Snowman, and he's been in the New York Times for his Marionette Theatre." So I think she got over trying to be a leading man.
So, so as you're going through school, and you did audition for a lot, you did do plays. Were you
mostly musicals? I did some straight shows, but
were you part of any particular community theater group? Or
there was Zephyr to Star Playhouse, and I did two. No, that was week to week stock. So I worked there. There's another regional theater at Mount Gretna. I never did anything there. My friends that worked there called it Camp Mildew because it was damp. A lot of it was at the Fulton with the Fulton Summer Repertory. They did like a 10 season. This is when I was young, after I moved back from Boston. But my intention was to move back from Boston because I had this job at the Fulton. Oh, I did sort of play a leading man. I was in, they don't call it 10 Little Indians now. And then there were none.
And then there were none.
And I played Anthony Marston, who's described as a Greek god. I thought, I'm going to need help with this. And I was much thinner then, but I still asked the costume woman, and they didn't have Spanx, but she got me a girdle. But I was the first little Indian to bite the dust. And it was iced tea that we drank. And I swear to God, Richard, every night I died, a fly would land. I grew a mustache for that. A fly would land on my mustache and walk around and try to be dead after being poisoned by cyanide with a fly walking on your mustache.
Yeah, that was Agatha Christie coming to test you.
Yeah. I never thought. You just gave me goosebumps. It must be true.
It must be
It
true.
must be true.
So one of the things that you said earlier that I really thank you for saying is that you wanted to be in the theater so badly, and you and I have that in common, that you were willing to do whatever job that was handed to you.
Well,
And
and
I-
that was our training back then. That's how you were trained. And my training wasn't of my era, so to speak, because my teachers were near retirement, and they had we were taught the discipline of theater, showing up on time, having your pencil, writing your blocking, and it was very professional. And the discipline, how to make an entrance, how not to upstage yourself, how to keep yourself open. Of course, projection, enunciation, which I don't know if that's even taught anymore, because everyone
is everyone's mic'd now.
Everyone's
So,
mic'd.
as you're going through high school, what are you thinking about as far as your life plans? As you know, when you're going to graduate from high school, what are your goals and aspirations after graduating from high school?
I wanted to go to the Boston Conservatory because at that time, that was the only school that had a musical theater program. And then, of course, and I auditioned for lots of schools and didn't get in. And that's where I think I just was too much for them. And they wanted sort of Stanley Kowalski's and, more method. And then I took I took a year off and did theater, did costumes, did whatever I could. And then I auditioned at Boston, and Dr. Grant, who was in charge of the program, accepted me on the spot. Well, I was thrilled. I just was over the top. And of course, when I got there, I did a lot of tech. I would do whatever. I also got a job at the Boston Ballet and did headgear for them for a while and sang piano bar. I often say I majored in drinking and disco.
Many did from that era. So
which was not a good thing, but that was very flattering. After so many rejections, that was really spectacular. And then there was a professor who had not a dinner theater, but like singing waiters, but they had a show, but you also waited, and it was very popular, and he would ask the best. It was like a cast of 4. And he asked me, but he wanted me to do props. And I'm like, I don't freaking want to do props. So, but I always did. But the good thing about that is I can pull all those skills together with the puppets.
So as you know,
the props, the costume, etc.
So as all this is going on, were you in the back of your mind always thinking that you were going to have your own theater, that you were going to create?
Yes.
This?
I always knew I was going to have my own puppet theater. I always knew I was going to live above it. And I would always talk about puppets, but no one would get it. But I got it, that puppets can do more than, and I love Kukla Fran and Ollie and Bert Tillstrom, and there's a simple hand puppet can do so much. I always think of myself as an actor first, above anything. And the puppet is the extension of the actor. So what the actor has, your whole body, the puppeteer has his hands, voice, if they're doing it live, to put the character into the puppet.
Now I'm gonna peel back the onion on several layers here.
Okay.
First of all, let's talk about something that a lot of us, everybody in this business, deals with. I don't know if you've seen Being the Ricardos.
I did.
Which I love. But there are two things that just jump out at me, and I don't want to give away a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. But that was Lucille Ball after the success of The Big Street being let go from RKO Studios.
Can you believe that?
Well, that's show business.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Yes.
Of course.
And then the fight that she had on her hands trying to get, Desi Arnaz to be her husband on I Love Lucy. And even
Because he wasn't American enough.
Yes. And then even years later, even the whole issue of being able to be pregnant on television at that time. So I want to
Anticipating.
yes. But I want to talk about rejection in this business.
Oh God.
How did you deal with the rejection?
Not very well. You just try to look for the next audition, or and then at some point when I really sort of stopped doing theater because it took so much time away from the legitimate theater. It took so much time away, and I just was tired of playing. I think one of the last things I did was Amadeus, and I played Salieri's cook. And all I basically did was shift furniture around. And the actor who played the butler, and we were supposed to age, be old and be young. And I said to him, we're not going to do like character makeup art. We're just going to do this through acting. And he said, oh, yes. Well, the first tech, he's in full freaking character, age makeup. So I spent more time in the dressing room changing my makeup. Oh, that pissed me off.
So how did you support yourself during this period between the rejections and, trying to get yourself through to this on your path to getting to your own theater?
Well, I would always find something when I got back in 79, I did that season at the Fulton, and I just kept getting jobs. I wanted to go to Hollywood. I thought MGM was still shooting movies on the back lot. I kept getting jobs. That Christmas, my father gave me this huge suitcase, subtle hint, but I just kept working. And then I got a job doing video at the Lancaster Library. That's sort of when cable access was just starting. And I thought, oh, this is it. This is my big break. I'll develop this. And then that ended. And then it got kind of dark. For a 5-year period, I worked in group homes. I had no problem with the residents of the group home. They had reasons for their behaviors. But let me tell you, the staff I had to work with was not easy.
So let's go to the theater itself.
Yes. I would do theater when I worked in the group homes and would try to work around it. And I had a client named Leslie Bates, and I was doing Where's Charlie? And I would take him to rehearsals as an outing, and he loved it. And there's a fake slap in it where I guess Donna Lucci or someone slapped Spedigue. I played Spedigue. And they did this big slap like this. And of course, I did it down here. So Leslie would always want to do that slap with me, which I enjoyed. But I said, we can't do this at the group home because someone's going to not get it. And I would take the clients to the dress rehearsals and things.
So how did you find your current home? Let's start there.
Okay. Well, I had a great apartment on Prince Street, and then I had the Robert Brock Puppet Theater, which was just sort of touring, and I did it to a recorded track, which was a big mistake. And then my dear friend Cheryl Brinkman found this property as her studio, And I walked in the first time I saw this arch. I said, well, that's where the proscenium arch should go. I mean, I saw it as a theater meet. Whenever I walk into any space, I'm like, where could you perform? Where would the stage? I mean, that's just the way my mind works. So we rented it together. Then she moved out. Then I took it over, and slowly it has transformed. And then when my crazy landlord died, who was a carnival performer, he would say circus, but he was an old carny. We bought the property from his estate. And then that's when we started to do the new roof and do more permanent things. We broke through to the garage and elevated the theater seats. And I used my paycheck from Amadeus to do that. And then when my dad died, I moved home to be with my mom. And shortly after that, she said, why don't we put an apartment above the theater? And I said, well, if we put an apartment above the theater, it's going to be our digs. And that took about a year. And then we moved in, and it just keeps progressing. The building was built in 1850 over an 18th century foundation. So there's always something that needs tended to, but I love old buildings.
Now, when you first started in the theater, as it's depicted in the film, you started, first of all, not with the marionettes, but you started with the hand puppets, or
yes, marionettes scared me. I love marionettes, but they scared me. I did a lot of some hand puppets, some rod puppets, some shadow puppets. I tried to like educate America on puppetry. Not easy to do. And then I went with Muppet style puppets. And then after doing this for so many, your shoulders are shot. And then I started transitioning all the shows to marionettes. And the Salzburg Marionette Theater is my big inspiration. And I got to meet them. The Fulton booked them, and I got to meet them. And I introduced them as Uncle Max, because I had played that role. And I love Austria, so I had the Luden jacket and the costume, and got to meet them and ask them if I'm ever in Australia. And they invited Austria. And they invited me, and we've become very close. So that's a very special relationship. So I sort of stole their control, because you can walk two puppets with the Salzburg control. And I usually take something over there to show them, and they usually like it. And they've given me master classes, ein, zwei, go 1, 2, walking them. But they say that it's easier to hire someone who knows nothing about puppetry than to hire someone that knows something, because their own special technique. Oh, they also let me play the second lady of the night in DeSalva, the magic flute. And she's the one in the middle. So I had a puppeteer on either side of me, cueing me. And my friend Ursula, right before we went on, she said, Robbie, whatever you do, don't drop the puppet. I remember, shit my pants. So we're going out there, don't drop the puppet. I bowed, I did everything. I came off. And Professor Eicher, who was the artistic director at the time, I said to her, I did the second lady of the night tonight. And she said, Val, you tried.
Well,
but that's what I like about the Austrians, and I think Europeans in general. You ask them a question and they answer it. How refreshing is that?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to transition from doing the other types of puppetry to get to the field that you just completely went into the world of marionettes?
Well, we did this dreadful production of Little Mermaid, and I had this idea that I could just cut apart these sort of knockoff Barbies and string them with fishy line, and it was just chaotic. At one point, they all came out to celebrate her birthday, Andromeda, I think I called it, because you can't use the Disney names, and just everything Richard, it was just awful. So we stopped doing that show. And then I was into this, well, if you've seen the picture, the muslin stage, because they're difficult. They take almost twice as much work because the control's complicated, the body's complicated, everything about it is complicated, and they have to animate correctly. So I would say it's with the pandemic, it's so hard to keep track of time.
I know, absolutely.
I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago, we rebranded it because everything just started turning into marionette, like Aladdin turned into a marionette show, Cinderella's Christmas was the first. And I tried to do Bill Baird style marionette because I love Bill Baird.
Oh, absolutely. Just the best.
Were you in New York when he still had his theater?
No.
Oh, too bad.
No.
And I knew people that worked at Bill Baird, and actually I knew 2 of the puppeteers that actually did the puppeteering in Sound of Music. It's not Julie Andrews and the kids. They're shooting the close-ups, but that was always exciting. So that production opened the year my dad died.
Wow.
And that's 17 years ago. It was supposed to open the day after Thanksgiving. And we were at his sister's, my Aunt Dottie, at a surprise wedding anniversary, and his whole family was there. He had 5 martinis, 2 pieces of cake. He told all his jokes. He was in perfect form, and as we were leaving, he collapsed, and that was that. But what a way to go! What an exit!
What a way to go! Well, look at Bob Saget last night. Can you believe this?
I missed that because I was so nervous getting ready for you. What happened?
Well, Bob Saget was found. Do you know this?
No, I don't.
No, Bob Saget was found in his hotel room in Orlando. They said no foul play, or has been. They're doing tests to find out what he died of. But I saw his itinerary. He had just begun a national tour. And talk about unfinished business in the middle of everything. Very, very sad. 65, and on the horizon. So it's.
I'm only 64. I have another year to go. Then I get.
I got a couple of years. I'm heading in that direction, God willing. But I love one of the moments that I love in the film is when you're talking about, and he's flying over your head right now, Peter Pan. Because you talk about, I love the way that you describe the costume and how the costume is designed based on the way that Philip Barry described the costume.
I think it's very important to go to source material. That's like my training. You research the character, you make sure you know all the words you're saying. So that's just like in my genes. And the book is wonderful. And it was the play first, then he wrote the book. And I just thought it was a wonderful description. And I don't think any of the Sandy Duncan. I can't believe you. I love her. I would have loved to have seen her in Peter Pan.
Wednesday afternoon, Peter Pan is going to be right on this show.
Are you serious?
Yes.
And what nice things she said about Harvey. That was such a wonderful, wonderful tribute. Well, I'll be watching.
Thanks.
I'll be watching.
But I want to ask you, I also grew up. I grew up with Captain Kangaroo.
Yeah.
Every morning as I was getting ready for school, Captain Kangaroo. I have a photograph of Captain Kangaroo and Carol actually over my desk. And
of them together.
Yes, they were very good friends.
Oh.
And but do kids have the same wonderment that you and I had watching this now in this different world that we're living in?
They do, or they did. Um, and the parents as well. And Shari Lewis, who was another one of my idols, always said, you must always write up to children. You never write down to children. It makes them more savvy, which I couldn't agree with more.
And that's stated in the film, and I love the fact that that's in the film.
Yeah, me too. And also, you have to write for the grown-ups that are in, because half the audience is grown up. And my mom always, because she's the house manager, and she always, and I don't see it because the lights are in your eyes, but when the grown-ups laugh, the kids, and we have the kids sit forward for raking, and the kids enjoy hearing the grown-ups laugh, and the grown-ups enjoy hearing the kids laugh. So it's great. And how about that little redheaded boy in the picture?
Oh my God.
Adorable.
I went a few years ago. We're going back really a few years ago, before the pandemic, obviously. And I went to see The Wizard of Oz on a big screen, which is the way to see it, everyone.
Yes.
And as many times as I've seen it on television, to see it on the big screen, it was when they recorded a few years ago. And when Glinda made her entrance, this little girl in the theater screamed, "Mommy, look, a fairy princess." She just blurted it out, and the entire audience burst into applause. And it was just to hear this little girl just go with that, "Mommy, look, a fairy princess." So I want to talk about the documentary, which I think is so wonderful. And I hope that everybody who sees this will see this film. How did the documentary, first of all, come about?
Well, I have to say, Alexander Minnelli, he's not related to Liza or Vincent.
Spelled differently.
But yes, but he's just as talented. He's an incredible filmmaker. He did a short documentary. I don't know if you've seen it. There's some footage in Marionette Land called Man with Puppet.
Yeah.
And I kept bugging, and we became friends. I went to their wedding. I babysat their new baby. They were going to have a baby, and I kept saying that Liza Minnelli would be a great name. Liza didn't go for it.
Of course.
But they named her initials are MGM. So,
oh, really?
That's great. She's just a gorgeous child. But I kept bugging him. Well, why don't you do an update and Man with Marionette? And I kept bugging him, and he did a film. I guess it's 2 years ago, called At the Drive-In, and that did very well. And his wife at the time when we started was expecting, so he wanted to stay in Lancaster, and that worked out. And of course, I said yes immediately and signed the release, and we started shooting. This is pre-pandemic, and it was supposed to end at our 30th anniversary, which obviously never happened. And then it sort of kept expanding, and he wasn't sure where it was going to end. And I think he did like 38 or 37 cuts of it. So he worked hard, and I shot parts of it during the pandemic. It really helped me and my mom survive the pandemic, although we really weren't close during that. He would come in mask, and I'd get the yardstick out. And, but I have no idea what your question was.
No. We're talking about the documentary.
Oh,
I want to ask you, when someone comes in and they're filming, you know that the camera is on you.
Yeah.
You obviously want to be as natural as possible, whatever that means.
Exactly.
So,
the camera. Yeah.
So, and at the end of the day, I mean, like writing a book, putting your life for the world to see, and you are very honest about the good things and the bad things.
I think you have to be.
You have to be. How do you decide what you're going to share and what you're not going to share? And, and again, with what you want to share with me now, with how you decide, and how open was he in terms of your input as far as the editing process was concerned?
Well, what was the first part of that? Oh, what bothered me when he would shoot performances, and like when he shot Sherlock, the fog machine didn't work. And when he shot Divas and Dames, we had a shitty audience and stuff. Just what, pardon my language.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
And and he didn't get. The Salzburg Marionette Theater was in Hershey, and I got permission. No, Reading. I got permission for him to shoot, and he couldn't because he had to put the new baby furniture. No, that would have been Mila's furniture together. So that I was disappointed that we didn't get that. And I knew when he wanted something, I could tell when he wanted something real or if he wanted me to be big. And I trusted Al. He'll tell you I tried to direct it. Not true.
Well, Al, incredible film if you're watching this. So kudos.
He's moving today, but he said if he couldn't watch it, they moved to Upper State, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
and
okay.
Today is their moving day. So he was going to try to watch it. And if not, watch it again. He would be a good guest for you because
when he's ready, he's got a spot on this show.
Okay, I'll tell him.
Yes. But what did you learn about yourself after this film was over? And the first time that you sit, and did you and your mom watch it together?
One time. What was the first part of that question?
What did you learn about yourself?
Oh, well, I learned that I'm a much nicer person on stage than I am off stage. And that when I share that with people that I've worked with or my family, no one disagrees with me. I don't understand that. So I want to try to be more like Harvey Evans because he just must have been.
He was full of life and just absolutely wonderful. What would you like audiences to come away with after they see this film?
Well, I would hope that don't give up on your dreams. You can pursue your dreams. Dreams can come true. Mine came true. Look at Carol at 90 doing Dolly with her, and Phyllis Diller. And I just wonder how long I can continue. The theater has closed and the nonprofit has dissolved, but I'm trying to transition into virtual. So you're a big inspiration for me, and trying to, and you can't use stage lighting. So I've done a lot of YouTube videos, and I have 3 sets set up, one on the stage, one in the museum, which I'll do different sects. I want to produce 4 variety shows called Marionette Madness. And that's sort of vaudeville, burlesque, kind of Carol Burnett. That's not for children. My ultimate goal is to shoot cinematically the shows, but you can't just shoot them straight on. I mean, you really have to, it has to be scripted tightly. The other thing with YouTube is copyright clearance.
That's right.
And I try not to break any copyright laws, but there are times that it's copywritten. I can't use it. I'll be pulled. So Liza can't sing Lies with a Z. Judy can't sing We're a Couple of Swells. So what I'm doing, I have a large collection of instrumental music or instrumental instruments. So I'm trying to, the stuff that's in public domain, I can still use, particularly if I recorded it. Other stuff that's in public domain, I have to re-record. That's recorded because the recording's copywritten. But I'm working on songs that Liza can sing and Bet can sing and Carol can sing that are in their style. Like I can use the canner and amp vamp, or the bum, 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 bum. So to do that, and in the past, I've only written in I only know 3 chords: C, 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 A minor, F, 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 G, 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 G7. They're good chords, but they're more chords than that. So getting back into theory and trying to learn these instruments and play them, but I think that'll just add another level to it. And I think it'll be more interesting if Judy and Liza and Carol and Bette Midler have their own thing. It could be more biographical. I think in the long run, it's going to be more interesting. And I'll be able to play it wherever if I get my weight down.
Well, just take it one step at a time, and I can't wait to see what's next. This hour flew by.
Are you serious? Is this over?
Well, we're not there yet.
Okay.
Before we finish, my homage to James Lipton and the Inside the Actor Studio.
You're not going to ask me my swear word, are you?
No, I'm not going to ask you your swear word, but I have my own questions that I'm going to ask you. So let's
All right, I'm ready
with this. And the first question is, what is the wildest thing that you've ever done in public?
In public? Oh my God, the wildest thing I ever did in public. Well, I don't know how wild it is, but when I lived in Boston, this is decades ago, and I worked at a disco, and you could drink at the disco. And then after the disco closed, we walked
What
to
was the name of the disco, by the way?
1270. It was very popular. It had 3 floors. We would go to this speakeasy. The guy's name was Charles Trafton, but they called him Trash Can Charlie. He had worked with Noel Coward, and he was in the theater. So we would go there and drink more. And walking home, and we would go through Christian Scientists and walk through the big fountain there and get stopped regularly. So I don't know if that's the wildest.
Well, if that's the wildest thing you've done, good for you. By the way, Rob Shingle is watching.
Oh, hi,
and
Rob.
Rob Shingle said that you've been too hard on yourself, that you're a dear, dear friend. So that's nice. What is the one thing that you are most interested in right now in life? What's going on right now that you're very interested in?
My health. I really have to get my health in shape. I've gained and lost the same 10 to 15 pounds over this whole thing. I'm now diabetic. It's all in my stomach. So then I have the back, then the legs, and the diabetes. And I know it's all in my wheelhouse to do it. I try to do a little ballet bar every morning, and I mean little. I'd like to start doing some tap again. I can only do a couple of time steps, and I'm knocked out. So I really want to get through this feckin' pandemic. I'm being very safe. I think we have to be safe, but I don't want to end my career. It's like, well, do I retire? Do I keep doing this? A lot depends how successful the picture is, which I'm hoping. So
well, I'm going to keep it out
it's
there.
Going to the next step. It's going to the next step.
Yeah, that's great. What is the one person what is the one person that you have most enjoyed? Who is the one person that you have most enjoyed working with?
Oh, my goodness. I'm going to name drop a little bit. I did a dinner theater production of Arsenic and Old Lace, and Estelle Getty was played. Only she did it as Liz Gettleman because I don't have to explain that.
Yes.
And the other aunt, I can't remember which one she played. Lee Pravda, Lee Keel. They're using different names. And I was then in school, and I would come and visit them. And Estelle lived in Queens, and Lee lived on Beekman Place. So I would walk to First Avenue and then take a cab to Beekman Place for the doorman to let me out. So I think it's the people that have been nice to me that I've enjoyed working with. You know, when you get that contact on stage. So those two just come to mind because they just were so nice to me.
I love that. That's wonderful. When it comes to your career, What's the biggest single result that you desire to have in 2022?
I'd like to get my YouTube channel up to 1,000 subscribers.
I'm going to help you get there.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Let's make it happen.
I'm at 231 right now. My nephew said to me, "That's a lot of subs." And I said, "Are you hungry?" And he said, "No, Uncle Rob, subscriptions." So, okay.
So after the show today, you're going to go on my page and you're going to put your YouTube channel and everyone's going to subscribe. So we're going to get you there.
Okay.
In what situation do you have the least control of your emotions?
I would repeat that one more time, please.
In what situation do you have the least control of your emotions?
Eating.
Okay.
Does that answer the question? I mean, I emotionally eat. I binge eat, and it's a real. It's almost like a kind of suicide, long-term suicide.
Well, I know about it. Trust me.
Yeah. I'm working with a therapist on that. Of course, you have to be honest, which isn't easy, but I figure I better do it his way, not the Rob Rock way.
Right. So what was the quickest friendship that you ever made?
Oh, golly. I'll tell you who, an actor named Michael Iannucci, who worked at the Fulton a lot, but I never knew him. And he was doing a show with my friend Valerie Stack Dodge. Oh, it's a four-hander where the dance teacher comes in and teaches the woman how to dance. I can't think of the name of it.
Stepping Out?
No, it's just two characters. And it's an older woman, a young guy comes in and teaches her ballroom. It doesn't matter. But anyhow, Valerie said, "Don't you know?" I said, "No, I didn't." So he was here doing a show and we met and we just instantly became friends. We got each other.
That's wonderful.
It's like we would be up for the same sort of roles, that kind of thing.
Whose talent among the people that you know do you most admire?
The people that I know, Al Minnelli.
Okay, wonderful. Great. And what do you consider the single most beautiful word in the world?
Yes.
Great answer.
Yes, I can.
Yes, I will. And this is my last question for you today. What would make you go insane the fastest?
Oh, Lord, that could be a list. Oh, my mother and I arguing. My sister visiting too long. I'll tell you, this just, we really don't leave the house. So I have like a little front porch in front of the theater. So I can be out there masked and do whatever. And if it's someone I see I want to talk to, I can, or I can hide. And I was hanging up very few Christmas decorations because I was not in the mood. I was trying to force myself in the mood. And the dogs were out, and this old lady with gray hair piled up and too much makeup started talking about the dogs. So I usually talk about the dogs. Then she starts telling me I don't need to wear a mask, and she's 86 and she takes this and that. I said, "I'm sorry, I've got to get back to work." And she kept on going. And I said, "I'm sorry, I followed the science and I listened to Dr. Fauci." And she said, "He's evil." I said, "Goodbye. I'm not talking to you anymore." And I went inside. So that I've got to let that go.
Let that go.
Let that
go. Okay. Robert, don't go anywhere for a moment. I want to thank everybody who showed up today. Thank you so much. It means the world to me.
Did we have an audience?
We had an audience. Yes, we Apple and they've changed SEO, so it's hard for us to gauge how many people showed up until later, and then we get those numbers showing up. So everyone who showed up today, thank you for being here.
Yes.
If this was your first time, I hope that it will not be your last time. On richardskippercelebrates.com, there's a button that says join in the celebration. Click on that button and check out the other people that I've celebrated and the others that are coming up. Leave a comment right here on Richard Skipper Celebrates on YouTube. Share this video with your friends. By doing so, what that does is that elevates the ranking of this video. And the more people that will see it, a couple of things going to happen. The more people will see the video, and the more people will see the documentary, and the more people will subscribe to Robert Brock's YouTube channel. And we've got to get those numbers up. Those are the goals. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. After today's show, I want you to go to your Facebook page, and I want you to reach out to the first person that pops up and reach out with a phone call. And I want you to call that person, not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. And let that person know what they mean in your life. If the name that pops up, you don't know who they are, let them go. You don't know who they are anyway. But if you know who they are, pick up the phone, call them up, and let them know what they mean in your life. As my dear friend David Friedman always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. Now, Robert, I'm going to leave the screen, and you've got the last word all to yourself. Anything that you want to say about anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message that you want to put out to anyone who's watching right now. I thank you for the gifts that you've given to the world.
Thank you.
The gifts that you're going to continue to give to the world.
Oh, bless you.
I can't wait to see what the next chapter is.
You
and
me
don't worry
both.
about how to end the show, because when you say goodbye, the closing credits will begin. Thank you, and let's stay in touch. Promise?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank
It's all
you,
yours.
Richard.
Thank
All
you.
righty. Well, I hope you do subscribe to Richard Skipper Celebrates. I can't tell you how much it's meant to me watching his interviews. I miss talking theater with theater folk, and if you miss that, you will get that from him. When we were doing the film festivals, a lot of times I would end with the song, and I'd like to sing this. Let me get a little water. I was a big fan of Carol Burnett, and her theme song was written by her then husband, Joe Hamilton. And the end of every season, Carol would sing the full number in the washer lady costume. So finger crossed this all works. I'm so glad we had this time together, just to have a laugh and sing a song. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. There's a time you put aside for dreaming, and a time for things you have to do. But the time I loved the best was this past hour, when I got to celebrate with you. When the time comes that I'm feeling lonely, and I'm feeling oh so blue, I'll just think back and think of you only, and the happiness will come through. That's why I'm glad we had this time together, 'cause you made me feel like I belong. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. Ahoy, Skipper!